Well, hello and welcome to a very wet and wintry Hive Stadium here in Edinburgh. The European club rugby scene at senior level may be drawing to a close, and this place has been awfully quiet for the past few weekends. But all that is about to change because a bumper summer of under-20s rugby is just around the corner. Scotland's men's team will be in action here at the Hive in the famous World Rugby Under-20 trophy, looking to win that competition and secure promotion back to the top-tier championship events next time around. The women, well, they've got an exhilarating summer ahead. They're off to Parma in northern Italy for a 3-game inaugural summer series event against Six Nations rivals Ireland, Italy and France. Over the next wee while, we'll be taking you through the twists and the turns, the narrative, the thrills and the spills of all the campaigns, and picking out some key players you might want to keep an eye on. This is your one-stop shop for all things Scotland under-20s.
There's the tip, out the back it goes, Murdoch lock and Yull scores for Scotland!
Slided and dropped down, and that is a screamer from Scotland!
Wait, this will be a try for Scotland!
Well, it's great to be joined here overlooking Edinburgh's Hive Stadium by two men with such a deep knowledge of the Scottish rugby setup. We have the Watsonians women head coach and TV commentator Bruce Millar and former Scotland captain and international centurion Chris Paterson. Mossy, how big a summer, how significant is this for our men's and women's teams?
Big summer, big for both under-20s teams. For the men's under-20s teams, it's ultimately desperation to get back to the Junior World Championship, the top tier under-20 rugby, to get that progression out of the Junior World Trophy, where we failed to do that last year, coming unstuck against Uruguay, who potentially could play again this summer. But it's really important to get back to that top table. The under-20s is a stepping stone for professional rugby. It's competitive. You play against top players, so you want to be in that top tier, and the Scottish players have the opportunity to try and do that here at Hive through the dates in July.
Yeah, for sure. Bruce, when we look at the women's side of things, there's now a clear pathway from the age grade setup through the Celtic Challenge and into the national teams. How important is it to establish that roadmap for our young players, some of whom you'll have had a bit to do with from a coaching point of view?
It's huge. It's like the men's game. You need that clear pathway, that progression right through from under 16, under 18, now under 20. So really exciting. Lots of exciting things happening in women's rugby. Further up, with the WXV starting last year, the Lions Tour being announced, the Celtic Challenge. So it's just a great time to be involved in women's rugby, and that's another piece of the puzzle to have this under-20s tier.
How do you balance and how much weight do you give to player development and performance versus the actual tangible results that an under-20s squad achieves?
I think the obvious thing is you want them to win, but the two are totally interlinked. Like if you deliver a level of performance, the outcome will take, will determine itself. This level is really difficult to win because of the exposure to the players you're playing against. Have probably had more professional exposure, potentially had more meaningful games on a more regular basis. When you come together and you play for Scotland, you can win any time you take the field. You believe that. 80 minutes, the 23 players, it is about winning. But I think we should be proud of the number of players that we've progressed through professional rugby and international rugby. I came through the system, but didn't win many games at under 21 level as it was then. I think I was involved in one of the first ever away games against Wales way back in the mid-90s. That's not acceptable. We want to win, but if we're progressing players who can progress through to play professional rugby and international rugby, then that's a big part of the role.
Good stuff. Well guys, I think we've had enough standing out here in the bitter Edinburgh rain. Let's head downstairs to the main national team changing room at Scottish Gas Murrayfield and have a look through some of the key clips of the players who could light things up in a Scottish jersey this summer. Well, it's quite fitting that we have decamped here to the lair of both the Scotland men's and women's national teams. This room here is what all the players were talking about and all the clips we're going to show you today. That's what they're aiming for. That is the ultimate goal, to sit here, not in these chairs, but in the big chairs around us with all the famous names adorning these storied walls. We'll start with the men's side of things first, Chris. How do you assess the under-20 Six Nations that finished a few months ago?
Frustrating to finish foot of the table. I think only 1 point. We mentioned how competitive it is, how hard it is. The kind of general consensus in the first game was Wales away, and it was a bit rusty. It was a reasonably close game. Some 2 or 3 driving maul tries, a real physical away from home performance and getting good return from driving mauls, but a few errors, and Wales eventually came on top. France and England at home, I would sum up by having both quite similar in terms of better second half performances. Out the game almost by half time, but better second half performances. Poor performance in Italy, and then although we were heavily beaten again in Ireland, there was a vast improvement from last year. So I think what is important is what happens between then and now, and the time you get to spend together. Of course, the team will be different, the squad will be slightly different going ahead to Junior World Trophy, but learning from the performances, what was good about the Six Nations Championship, and what has to improve. You're playing against different opposition again, so it's important to focus on yourself more than the opposition. Based on that then, Mossy, where do you see the key areas for improvement as you build into a new campaign? Well, the skill execution, ultimately. I mean, a lot of the errors that were made in the championship are probably unforced errors. So being able to build pressure on opposition and through retaining possession. I keep saying it, but the opposition will be different. There's quite a lot of unknown. With Samoa first up, massive physical presence. You did well to win against Samoa the last time under 20s played. So improvements, I think, are mainly around skill execution, maintaining possession, holding your discipline, starting better. We mentioned a couple of the games in the Six Nations you fell behind. You don't want to be chasing the game if you can help it. There's an opportunity to play attacking brand of rugby. Hopefully the weather will be better, the synthetic surface at Hive. So retaining possession under pressure, making good decisions at the right moments, and just realising that you're probably going to be favourites for every game you play. So embracing that and putting that pressure on opposition. Yeah, it's very much a different pressure, isn't it, Bruce? But off the field, what will it do for a group of guys to go away, to spend time with each other, to be in camp for a couple of weeks at a time, and really have some momentum and build some cohesion with each other?
Well, that's exactly it. It's just a chance to build cohesion that you maybe don't get at other times. I think Chris touched on it earlier. It's a massive part of preparation for big games. If they're going to then take another step up to the next level, it's all part of the learning process, playing at that level, camps and such like.
Well, that's the wider narrative. Let's sharpen our focus a little bit and talk about some of the players who've made big impacts in that Scotland shirt over the past few months. Freddie Douglas, first of all, Bruce, he had a ridiculously good Six Nations campaign. Top turnovers, top tackles, proper scrappy number 7 in that classic Fetcher mould. How much have you enjoyed seeing him go to work?
Yeah, as a former back row player, not of the same standard, I've absolutely loved watching him. I watched him a bit of him in Super Series rugby as well, and he immediately stands out, and he's just got the complete game. He does all the scrappy stuff, as you say. He makes his tackles, but ball in hand, he's a brilliant link player. He's very quick. He was making line breaks, and probably one of the things that initially when I first saw him, it was just that maybe ability to make that final connection, give a scoring pass that he maybe didn't do. But that's an area of his game I think that he's obviously worked on, and he just seems to get better and better every time I see him.
To top some of the charts statistically like he did in a team that didn't win a game tells you even more how good a player he is. Like in a team that was up against it, he was utterly exceptional. It seemed to be a head-to-head with him and Henry Pollock for England, and like for like, both quality players. But I've said it before, we produce good players at under 20 level, even if the results don't back that up in the team performance. There's 3 or 4, maybe more players from the Six Nations that I could see playing professional rugby, if not international rugby, in the next 18 months, 24 years, and he'd absolutely be one of them.
For sure. Let's move on from the back of the back row to the base of the scrum. Hector Paterson, 2 Borders boys with me. You'll be very proud to see Bruce, another Borders product, beginning to make his way through our national pathways. Powerful specimen for a scrum half as well. He's a big athletic 9.
He is. We were talking about that as well. Just you were looking around the names in this changing room and how many from the Borders, and it's fewer and fewer. So it's nice to see somebody like Hector Paterson at that level. Does everything, as you say, that you would expect of a 9, but he does have that extra edge. He's quick, but he is powerful.
He's quite fiery as well, isn't he?
He's fiery, yes.
He's a fiery character. I used to play with his dad, D. Paterson, quality 9 as well, and you can see that game now, so understands been passed on. Hector's a real hard worker, training wise as well. Competitive position, like the back row, scrum half, not only in the cohort with under 20s, but looking ahead to the national squad and the professional squad announced this week. There's a lot of quality 9s. So he's had a bit of involvement with Edinburgh a couple of occasions this year as well, at professional level. So probably not as much as he would like. some games in the A team, obviously in the Fosrock series. So he's certainly quick, dynamic around the field, and if an opposition makes a mistake, he'll let them know about it as well. He's a fiery character.
We've highlighted two guys there and two positions that traditionally Scotland are really strong in, and that certainly shows no sign of slowing up, Bruce. How encouraged are you at the level of competition in those positions that is emerging through our domestic systems and beginning to poke its head through into the programme?
Yeah, it's exciting. As Chris says, if sometimes the results are not exactly what we want, as long as we're bringing through 3, 4, 5 guys every year who are capable of playing professional rugby and then perhaps international rugby, at least we're doing our job from a development point of view. And there's lots, and as Chris said, it's great. We've talked about 9 and at 7, whereas we've got quite a lot of depth at international level. But
Hookers
still,
as well. Just
guys,
looking at some of the clubs here, Hookers,
Hooker.
Kerry Boy Flaherty, Corey Tate, and there's the whole raft of Hookers as well. I think it's important to say as well that under-20s rugby is different to professional rugby, and the way you prepare to play professional rugby it will be different, and I think there's a mad urge to make it the same for under-20s. But if you think about the amount of information you're exposed to as a club player or even a Super Series player is far less than it would be for an under-20s game. It has to step up, of course. But I still think the amount of information we expect these young players to process in the week is too much. And leading up to game, I think we maybe expect them to deliver like a professional player who's done it for 8, 9, 10 years or an international level. So that's where the coaching and the management becomes really important. You have to give them enough that they're challenged, but actually don't overload them, because ultimately they've still got the raw ability to play and make the decisions on the field that you want to encourage. Yeah.
Well, let's turn our attention now to the women's under-20 squad, and a really interesting, really exciting summer opportunity for them to play in this inaugural summer series against 3 strong Six Nations opposition as well. Claire Cruikshank is going to be the coach of that team, Bruce, having done so well with Edinburgh in the Celtic Challenge. Where do you see their goals and aspirations to go and have a crack at Ireland, Italy and France this year?
For a start, it's important that we have that tier. It's probably the first step, I would hope, on having like a fully fledged women's Six Nations that maybe, the same as the men's game, runs alongside the women's game. For now, it's a bit more based on like the under-18 festival, so it'll be 3 games rather than the playing everybody in the round robin. So there'll be a bit of the unexpected, I imagine, but so it's partly around development and again, like we said with the men's game, it's just that different, very different preparation than they'll have experienced before. A lot of them, like in the club game, a lot of them have had a bit of a taste of that in the Celtic Challenge. But they will absolutely go out there looking to win games as well. So it's not just a development thing, but who knows how they will fare.
Yeah, Claire Cruikshank's done a good job.
She's a good coach.
Yeah, and I'll know a lot of the players from Edinburgh Uni, from Celtic Challenge. She's been involved with rugby as a player herself and for a long time as a coach. So she'll be, I think, trying to get as much continuity as possible from the Celtic Challenge stuff, especially with the Edinburgh players. And it's really interesting to see where it places the standard of the competition. I think Italy, France and Ireland, we've got to expect there'll be pretty good opposition as well. So where does Scotland sit in that? Where does it sit in comparison to the Celtic Challenge? Obviously, the Celtic Challenge has fully fledged international players playing in it, so there's a real hard element there. But it'd just be really interesting to see how our players perform and how they react to that step up. If you come from under-18 rugby to national under-18 to national under-20, it's a big step. And hopefully the Celtic Challenge will help that for the individual's progression. Yeah,
I think the Celtic Challenge will have been huge in terms of the preparation for this, playing alongside and against international players. It has really helped.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that a lot, haven't we? We've seen the likes of Rona Lloyd and Lisa Thompson coming back, and that's close to 100 odd caps of international and Olympic sevens experience coming in. How encouraged have you been by that inaugural season of the Celtic Challenge? And I guess how important is it to have these additional steps in place so young women can be aspirational, can see a road to where they want to go, ultimately sitting in this changing room?
Yeah. Well, I suppose they're two slightly separate things, the international or the representative pathway. So we've got stuff happening at under 16 level, under 18 level. We didn't have the same at under 20. I guess partly would be a numbers game, and just with the numbers sort of trickling through, if you like, from the under 18s, all the Six Nations will now have enough players for the under 20 level. But the Premiership in Scotland, while it's superb and gets better every year, that is not where we should be preparing our players to play international rugby, which is obviously why the majority play down south. There are notable exceptions. Francesca McGee last year, Alex Stewart this year, probably go back 2 or 3 years, Emma Orr. But they're the exception rather than the rule that are playing their club rugby in Scotland. We need somewhere for them to be playing their rugby week in, week out, and that's where the Celtic Challenge, which I thought was absolutely superb. I watched every game this year, and there's clearly an appetite for that, not just in the playing side of things, but spectator point of view as well. We have 2,000 people watching that derby on the first day, every game thereafter, 900, 1,000 people, so there is an appetite for it.
Well, that leads us on very nicely to have a spool through some footage and some clips from some of the star performers from a Scottish point of view in this Celtic Challenge. And we're going to start, Bruce, with Nicole Flynn, powerful athletic centre, multi-sport background as well, in swimming and aikido. How much has she impressed you this year?
She's been superb, and interesting you say the multi-sport background. There's lots of players in the women's game have played other sports, often before they came to rugby, and I think it probably really helps. You can see, you mentioned centre, but can play wing, play fullback, all sorts of skills. Yeah, she's a really exciting prospect for the future.
She came into the Women's Six Nations squad as well. I think was on the bench for one of the games. It's certainly a big part of the squad, and so I did a bit of work with the kickers. And I haven't seen her perform. I would never have known how young she was, because her combative or physical attributes, or our kind of combative spirit, for somebody so young to be so dominant in that environment, I thought was excellent. I think she topped the charts for dominant tackling, almost like a third or more than a third of her tackles are dominant. Now, if you put that into the back three, most of your tackles in the back three are going to be side on. You're going to be a lot of space to cover. So the fact that a back three player is getting any dominant tackles is quite unique. The fact that over a third of the ones you make says that your footwork's pretty good, you've got the right position, and you've got the aggression to follow through. So not only the attacking element, our defensive element was really impressive.
Yeah, it strikes me as we watch through these clips, it's the all-round skill set that she possesses. We're seeing her smashing players backwards, we're seeing her chasing kicks, we're seeing her make lung-bursting runs and scoring tries, making assists. She seems to have every bit of weaponry in her arsenal to become a really successful player.
Yes, which is why she's capable of playing in 2 or 3 positions across that back line. You can see we're watching these clips there. She's quick off the mark, but she's very aware of who's around about her, both the defenders but also the support. You can see her going through tackles there, but she's already trying to get her hands free to keep the ball alive, which was the style of rugby that Edinburgh were looking to play.
It'd be interesting to see how her experience with the national team helps her in the 20s, but allows her to help other people in the under 20s as well. Like, again, flip back to when I was playing, there was 1 or 2 players who I played under 21s with who had been exposed to the international arena, and it was, you would just almost look up to them because they had been at that level. So there was a responsibility to them to whether to set training standards or just pass on advice that you'd learned from the national team, the age grade team. So I put too much pressure on her, but there's a responsibility there as well. A lot of the team will look up to her for that guidance.
It's a similar dynamic too for our next player, Merrin Gunderson, who was one of the breakout performers of the Celtic Challenge in those burnt orange Edinburgh jerseys. Really aggressive, dynamic back row. She was named National Player of the Year as well at the recent Scottish Rugby Community Awards, Bruce. What a season she had.
Superb, and you will like to watch fast, free-flowing, open rugby.
No, I prefer this.
I prefer this as well. I'm just going to say, I still like a player who is very direct, gets you on the front foot, and you can see her carrying there. But it's not just head down and charge into contact. She's got good footwork. She's, again, aware of space, aware of her support. Again, looking to get hands free and keep the ball alive. Made a lot of dominant tackles. In fact, when we looked at the stats, I was surprised that she hadn't made more. It seemed to me that she would have made more. I think there was the 9 there, but a lot of carries here in the tight spaces.
To me, it's after contact.
Lines, yes, aye.
As well, it's like there's a technique, there's ability, there's a strength, but there's an attitude there as well that you're not going to be stopped in the first tackle. So metres after contact is a start that's measured a lot. It's spoken about. I don't particularly like it because I would rather avoid contact in meters anyway, but it's a big part of the game. But if the contact's being made,
contrasting philosophies here.
If there's a contact being made, don't be passive, don't accept it, drive through it, and Mern absolutely does that. So she's another one where the game's so many parts of the game are so determined on getting front football or getting over the advantage line. To have that in a crucial position, number 8, is really important.
And she's another who's had some national team experience as well, been in with the full senior squad during the Six Nations, done some training, been exposed to that level of training environment, physicality, skill level, and we're seeing the fruits of that borne out over the past few months.
Yeah, as Chris said, these players that have been exposed to the, just even training with the international side then have a responsibility when they go away with the 20s. But yeah, you can see her there. It's that desire to chase everything down, make tackles. I'm not in the slightest bit surprised that she was picked up by national selectors, because there was one of the games, I think it was maybe against the Clovers, that she was just absolutely exceptional. But her and her clubmate Alex Stewart, bear in mind, both played Premiership rugby for Kirstoffer Cougars. Alex Stewart capped, and Meren Gundersen, I would not be surprised in the slightest to see capped anytime soon.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be heading in that direction. We'll see, I'm generalising massively here, but we don't necessarily in Scotland associate ourselves with producing big physical, abrasive specimens, male or female, and Meren Gundersen certainly seems to have the physical attributes to go and thrive at senior level, as we're seeing in this footage.
Yeah, there's a lot of technique involved in that. See, a breakdown turnover there, perfect body position, it's the dynamism as well. I think you play a style of game that suits you, so you obviously play to the strengths of the players you have. You could play any game with Mern. Like the coaches could almost say, right, and looking ahead to the opposition you may face, and traditionally if France are big up front or Ireland are as abrasive they are, the Italian development's excellent. Like, she fits into any style of play that the coach wants to develop, because she has that physicality, as you mentioned, but the all-round skill set as well. So a big summer, really big summer, exciting summer for everybody involved, and just performing like that for a national team inspires them, and inspires everybody that's watching as well.
Well, clearly a hugely exciting, enormous summer of under-20s rugby just around the corner. Bruce and Chris, thank you very much for your time and insights, and for talking us through some of the exciting young talents emerging from our national domestic pathways. Don't forget, the World Rugby Under-20 trophy will be staged right here in Scotland's capital at the Hive Stadium during July. Ticket details available on the Scottish Rugby website now. The women in action over in Parma, and you can follow all their matches on Scottish Rugby's channels via the live streaming platform. You can also keep up with all the men's action over the summer, all the details around the Skyscanner Americas tour, and what the under-20s boys and girls are up to using Scottish Rugby's social and YouTube channels. So thank you very much for watching today. Turn up, tune in, and back the boys and girls in blue this summer. We'll see you soon.